Hey there, Danica Fine here. In this hands-on exercise, we'll walk through the process of creating a fully managed data gen connector and also configure it to use the cast value single message transform to cast a few fields from the data before it's written to Kafka. Note that this exercise will be nearly the same as the hands-on getting started with Kafka Connect exercise, other than the addition of the two SMTs. So let's get started. First things first, we're using the data gen connector in this exercise, so let's find and select it using the filter. Just as in the last hands-on exercise, we'll once again generate sample data using the orders record schema. But since we want to transform individual messages using a single message transform, we'll need to use the advanced configuration options. Let's add our first SMT. Now from here, we could assign the default name for this transform, but it makes the configuration a lot easier to read if we give it a name that corresponds to the SMT that will be used. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to create an SMT to cast fields from each message. So we'll be pretty original and call it cast values. At this stage, we also need to identify which SMT we want to use. This particular SMT accepts a list of fields to transform, as well as the type we want to cast them to. We do this by specifying the field name and the desired type separated by a colon. We can add any number of fields and new types using a comma delimited list. All right, the configuration of our first SMT is complete. To make this more interesting though, we'll go ahead and add a second SMT. It's pretty much the same process, but this time we're creating an SMT to convert the timestamps of each message. Again, we'll give it an appropriate name and fill out the required configuration parameters. That completes the SMT configuration, but now we have to continue setting up the data gen connector instance. Once again, we'll be writing the output records to the orders topic. As usual, in order for our connector to communicate with our cluster, we need to provide an API key for it to use. You can either use an existing API key in secret or create one here as we are doing. We'll also be using the default sizing for this instance of the connector. Before we launch the connector, let's take a moment to examine its JSON configuration and identify the SMT-related settings. Notice the configuration for the two transforms is included in the connector configuration. You could also create the connector using either the Confluent Cloud Connect API or Confluent CLI and this same JSON configuration. Other than having to provide the actual value for the API key in secret, the JSON is ready to use. All right, let's launch the connector and observe the result of the SMTs. With the connector running, we can view messages being written to the topic. Since we use the same orders topic from the last hands-on module, we can compare the messages without the SMTs to those being produced now using the SMTs. We'll use the jump to offset option to locate a range of records that includes the last few with the original order time format and the first few with the transformed order time format. Note that you will need to click the pause button as soon as the display jumps to the target records in order to keep them in view. As you can see in the current view, offset 69 and 70 have the original order time format, and the messages written after offset 70 have the updated order time format. Notice also the change in the data type for the order ID and order units fields. Now, before we end this exercise, let's delete the connector so that we don't unnecessarily deplete any Confluent Cloud promotional credits. Let's also go ahead and delete the orders topic, but we won't delete the KC101 cluster at this time since we'll be using it in other exercises that are a part of this course. And that wraps up our brief hands-on tour of SMTs. Now you know how to configure a connector to use them using the Confluent Cloud Console.